Welcome to the Reinvented Life with Pamela Chanel David. Do you want to step up your game? Pursue your dreams. Be the best version of yourself. The Reinvented Life is here to help. The Reinvented Life is about courage. It's about staying relevant. It takes grit. It defies gravity. It's about taking inventory of where you are today and where you want to go. Embrace change. Make things possible and reinvent your life. Call in with questions at 888-994-4995. Now, it's time to reinvent your life with Pamela Chanel.
Well, happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to the Reinvented Life. Always so good to have you joining us on Mondays. We're 11:30, almost noontime already here on the West Coast. And of course, we're a West Coast, East Coast show. Today we have a guest from the East Coast on with us, and she is 2:30 her time. So welcome. Would love to hear what you are thinking about. So please be sure to get to know us and shoot us a message at reinvent.mobipop.info to get in touch with us. And we always love to hear on the Reinvented Life what you're thinking, what's out there, what you want to hear more about. And as you know, the Reinvented Life show is all about reinventing one's life, whether it be reinventing one's business, reinventing what one is up to, and always about shifting hard times, shifting tragic things, shifting difficult things into purpose, into triumphs, and into something that's positive, and living your life in the most meaningful way possible. Today, my guest has done just that. Is an absolute accomplished individual. She's a speech pathologist. Can't wait for you to see her, for those that are viewing, listen to her for those that are listening. As I mentioned, speech pathologist. She's an entrepreneur, and she's an author of an upcoming book that's going to be launching this fall. So I'd love to bring on the show Denise Cesare and have her share with you how she's done what we're all about, how she has reinvented her life. Welcome to the Reinvented Life, Denise.
I am so happy to be here on the Reinvented Life. Thank you so much, Pamela. I'm so thrilled to be here with you
Oh,
on the
it's
East
absolutely.
Coast.
Yes, such a pleasure to have you with us today and really to share, as I mentioned, to our listeners and to our viewers about your story. You have overcome what could have literally been complete tragedy, and you've taken that and you've overcome. So, if you would start out for the first couple minutes, share where your life was, what happened, and then we'll be talking during the show about certainly where it's gone.
Well, over 14 years ago in 2006, I lost my voice to a condition called spasmodic dysphonia. And as we know, I'm a speech pathologist, and those two didn't mesh well together. So for 5 years, I had absolutely no voice. Right now, I have a voice, but for 8 months, I haven't been able to go for my injection because I used to go every 3 months, but during the coronavirus pandemic, I wasn't able to go. So during this dark time, it was a very, you're right, reinventing yourself. It was a dark time because I had no voice. And being a speech pathologist, not only just that, in life we take these things for granted. You take for granted your voice. You don't know how precious it is. So with that said, losing my voice brought me to from darkness to the light, because when you're going through something, you have time to really move through it. I had to move through it. I had a 6 year old. I have a six. My son's now 20, but he was 6 years old at the time, and I had to keep going. So there was no answer. There was no giving up. What was sad is that I worked, in the school system, and they really weren't kind to me. I have a disability. I didn't even realize that myself. and they didn't really support me. So I had to fight for myself, and I won, thank goodness. Because without that, they would have took someone with such love, compassion, and education, and I would have been done. I was not standing for that. So from 2006 to 2011, I had no voice. So for 5 years, I worked and I gained accommodations because I learned what to do to get those. I worked with my students who are precious. And then when I finally, in 2011, got my voice and my life back, um, things even got progressively better. But during that time, I don't know if you realize I'm an entrepreneur. I created my own brand. T suit fits everybody to a T because we're not a size, we're a fit. So that
It's
dark time gave me a lot of creative energy.
That's amazing. And that's exactly where we're going to be starting out, because your voice and what you're referring to and the work as a speech pathologist that you do is all about the physical voice. But what I love about you is that your voice is in terms of expressing itself in multiple ways. And that's really what the reinvented life is all about as well, because at the core of the word reinvent is the word invent, and to reinvent is to create. And so you used your voice to create. I mean, fit to a T. How perfect is that? Because it's all always about the fit, and it's always
Exactly.
about the relevancy. And so I'm so impressed that what you describe as, cannot even imagine, such a dark time you did take and you put that into purpose. You had a son, a young son at the time, that, as you say, you had no choice for. And so when you talk about being an entrepreneur, sometimes people don't know what that means or know how to do it. But if you can get creative like that and actually bring your gifts to the world, that's really what it's all about. So amazing that you created that brand. We'll talk about some of your creations here in a moment. We're back at 2011. That's almost, it's nine, almost 10 years ago now. When you reflect back on that, and I know the journey between now and what that was has been amazing, share some highlights of that, where you went from 2011, and certainly where you are now.
So luckily, you have to, knowing being a speech pathologist and having a speech disorder is an advantage and a disadvantage because I know a lot. Um, so Botox treatments don't always work. Um, it's not always a quick fix. You have to really find the best doctor available, an otolaryngologist. Um, but in 2006, I met a doctor who would have just told me to give up. So, I'm not for the giving up. So I had walked out of there. And that is why I didn't get the injection until 2011, until I found the proper treatment and care from someone who really almost saved my life. Well, it did save my life because my voice was back, and it was a miracle. Because you're hearing me now, but my voice from 2006 to 2011 was not audible at all. I mean, it was very choked. It's raspy and a little bit now, but I can project. Then I could not project. I couldn't even get air out. So 2011, I remember in August 2011, I went in. The injection is not easy, but I say it because you have to, sometimes you just have to go with what you believe, because I believed in the doctor. And when I left there, the highlight was instantaneously, like within maybe not even half an hour, well, I felt like it was my regular voice that came back. And I cried, I laughed, I jumped. People would see me that knew about me. I was able to order through the drive through, which sounds simple, but I couldn't do it. I could talk on the telephone again. Well, I was happy to be able to, use texting, but being able to talk on the phone was a gift again. And during that time, like I said, I was able to then get reinvented and reinvigorated to keep going and making more things happen for others. Being a speech pathologist, I'm an advocate. So once I got my voice back, watch out. There was no stopping me.
That's amazing. I mean, you speak of advocacy, and what strikes me, many people don't know my undergraduate degree, my bachelor's of science is in speech and hearing. And so it's amazing when I think about the science piece of this and going from 5 years of silence into basically instantaneously being able to get that voice back, just the joy and what that can bring to your life. And so, what is that you understand the notion of being an advocate for yourself first. And of course, with that was your young son as well, who's now, an adult.
20.
But it's got to be amazing. And so, along this journey, again, using the voice, not just physically, but as a metaphor, where have you found the important places now to use your voice?
So, so I tell a little story about one of my students that, because I did get accommodations, I did work, even though they tried to not keep me, they really tried really hard to get rid of me, and it didn't work. But students who are precious to me, when I did get my voice back, asked me where my other voice was. That's how innocent they are, and that's how real and loving they are. They didn't care. They learned from me no matter what. So I'm getting emotional, but the nuggets in that is that they're precious to me. And yes, I'm a speech language pathologist, teacher, educator first, but I'm educating women now about feeling empowered in their body and not feeling shame and not thinking you're a size, you're a fit. So it kind of tied in, but I came up with this slogan, moments in motion with love, which is part of, I kind of figure with swim motion and we all have to, feel the love. But during the time that school was out, I was virtually online, 8 sessions a day, 5 days a week. Thank goodness, because the students needed me so desperately to have this interaction.
Yes.
And I was writing another book. I was in the process of writing a prescriptive narrative for adults. I was in the midst of that, but with all this going on, I kind of couldn't wrap my head around anything. But one night, I woke up out of my sleep and said, "The message is right in front of me. These children need me. They are crying out. They're not. They don't. We as adults can't wrap our head around this." So I
Yes.
wrote the book out of my sleep. I woke up and literally wrote the book out of my sleep. And I called the publisher and said, "My book, which is going to be titled Moments in Motion with Love, is about the moments, because right now all we have are our moments together with each other. That's all that matters right now." So this book is connecting the universe and the earth and the environment with making the children know how precious they are in this world, and we need them and they need the world. So now I'm here. Fast forward 2020, my book will come out fall 2020 for these children, and all the children that were my students, they are the inspiration for that book.
Wow. That's beautiful. And that is such a glorious, literally real life example of taking something so tragic and so difficult and celebrating it and creating that victory of it. And isn't that what it's all about? It's taking inventory of our lives, where we are, the difficult times that people have overcome, and literally putting them, as you say, into motion. Like, this is so beautiful to be with love, be in motion, celebrating these children, and how many countless, literally, amount of children that will benefit by this. The distancing that is going on right now is difficult for adults, but ever so much more for children that aren't seeing their friends and aren't going to their schools and aren't going to what they're used to.
Exactly.
So
And
that is just
that
such a beautiful gift.
it poured out of me because I was with them. And actually, during certain sessions, the children would actually cry with me because as adults, we're like I said, we can't wrap our head around this. Imagine them. So they were crying. They were. I would tell them, "Don't worry, we're gonna get through this together." So I saw the disconnect happening right in front of me from March until June. And like I said, I was woken up out of my sleep. And my book, like I said, it's just about it's about the words. It's not about so much the illustrations. It's not a character book. But at the end of the book, it's very important that they can make messages of this moment that they're in to each other, the parents. I want parents to connect again with their children. Even though we're together, sometimes people are still disconnected because everyone's they're not sure. So they don't even know is school starting, is school not starting. Everybody's in a panic mode. And I want people to take a minute and just be at this moment because really that's what we have.
It's so true. And again, using that creativity that everyone has as a way to use their voice, and to a way to for them to express themselves. Voice is so equivalent to it. Share with us about what's hanging there. I know
Oh,
we're talking about creation. Tell us what's hanging behind you, and what
well,
that's about.
so first I created Sisu. It's everybody doing tea. How it happened when I was without the voice, I used to go to the swim club with my son. And of course, I didn't have the voice. So I would get a little anxious about running around after him. So I used
Sure.
to make this thing where I didn't have to expose myself. I made like a makeshift piece of this and that and put it together. And people would say to me, "Where'd you get that?" And I'm like, "How do I put it together?" However I could motion. And I was like, "Oh, I put it together." Um, and then they said to me, "That's great." And then I thought about it. I said, I'm onto something here. I didn't realize then it was my prototype. So what happened was I created a swimmable tea top and tea dress, my own creation. You could swim with it because, for the first time after I created this, and since I'm 17, I actually wore a bikini because you
Yeah,
can swim with it. It's swimmable. It's swimmable. It
that
dries
is
faster than the swimsuit.
incredible. Incredible. So again, you're using what is going on with you, what your experiences are, and moving them into something for other people. Your love is overflowing, and I love how you actually express that so freely. Most people don't know how to turn adversities, tragedies, hardships, hard times into something that can help others. And what's beautiful about it is when you can show up so much more authentically into the world. And that's who you are. You're not ashamed. You're not anything. You're not remorseful. You are taking all of that beauty that you have to create and share it into the world with children and adults alike. So incredible, incredible.
Wow.
Where do
And
you
thank
think
you. Thank you so much for saying that. It fills me up that you have just given me back some love. Thank you. I appreciate
absolutely?
that because what's really wild. You don't see it here, but I also created a pareo, which I fitted on my very dear friends because we're not a
Wow.
size, and in the fashion industry, they kind of size on smaller and they make it bigger. This is sized on a fuller size woman, and you go that way, and this way it fits everybody to a T. And I created, then on top of that, I created four travel essentials that are all organic and they're my formula. So check those
Wow.
out too because they're good for the environment and for your body. I was
Incredible.
busy.
In- wow.
I'm busy.
Yes. And what I'm curious, and I know what our listeners and viewers are probably most curious, where is that inspiration coming from? What foundationally is with you that you can just be so endless in the possibilities?
So that's a good question. And I think, I think, you do go, that gone through other tragedies in life. I think tragedy brings a glimmer of hope. People don't realize that. And I do say to people, because, my mom passed away 5 years ago, my father passed away when I was very young. But I think you have to look at the bigger picture. Like, they have more power from where they are, I believe. And they're with me in spirit. You have to look for the nuggets of goodness in everything around you, because otherwise, why, you need your purpose, you need your drive, you need to have a purpose, and that makes you go and reach more. You have to have the purpose.
So it's that drive, it's that internal, you're feeling that internally. So
Yes.
yeah, it's what it's all about. It's the inside coming out, and it's the sharing of it, the embracing of it to others that really
Hmm.
gives gives people the opportunity to receive. And at the Reinvented Life, we're always talking about that. You can see your own gifts, but when you give them so freely to others, your knowledge, your inspiration, it just gives so many more people that chance to believe, that hope. Beautiful,
Well,
beautiful.
that's all that I'm all about, is people really knowing that they have a purpose and they need to do it with integrity and love.
Exactly. So, because you are so entrepreneurial, and many of us share that, have like a couple tips, one or two tips for the people that are watching that they can put in
Okay.
place in their own life.
Okay, tip number one, you do need to, there's not, I just came up with this quote a couple of months ago, because I'm hard on myself. We all have things, we're not perfect, but there is no learning of perfection. So with
Mm,
that being said, you always have to learn. You have to see what someone does and learn from that. So, I couldn't do it all on my own. Obviously, I didn't come from the fashion world. I didn't come from knowing about design. I had to seek out and learn, who could help me design this. I believe that, you need to learn from people who've done it before. And another tip is, I do believe in, the spirit of things happen for a reason, but you do have to show up. You do have to put the work in. You you can't be afraid. You have to really be persistent in your vision and your goal, but you always have to be true to yourself.
incredible. Incredible. Thank you for your time. I could talk with you all day long. And how you show up. It's not just that you're showing up. How you show up is so magnificent, such an inspiration. And that tip of there's no learning in perfection. That is so beautiful. And again, thank you for sharing that so openly, because our lives are a series of what happened, and how often, myself included, has everyone wanted everything to be perfect, everything to be exactly so, everything to be exactly right. And when you really face that and realize that that's not realistic, that that's not authentic, that we're all going to have difficult decisions we make, difficult things that happen to us, but again, if we can learn from those and grow from that, it's all about learning. So I can't thank you enough for your contribution to the Reinvented Life. And again, if people want to find me, you can go to email me info at thereinventedlife.com. Happy to get you in touch with Denise as well. Look for her book. I'm excited about it. Moments in Motion with Love. It'll be out this fall. I'd love to have you on again when you launch your
Yes.
book, and we can really talk about that in more detail. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in today to the Reinvented Life Network. We will see you next Monday. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you for having me so much, and see you soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to The Reinvented Life with Pamela Chanel David. Tune in each week so we can work and grow together to become the best version of ourselves. Keep striving, keep dreaming, keep working, and embrace change. You may contact Pamela Chanel at info@thereinventedlife.com.